This episode of Needed to Hear That is brought to you by Light Source. What do we need when we're in the dark? Sometimes it's simply just a light source. My back's okay. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm glad you're okay. You've been having a hard time?
I had a little tumble on Saturday night.
Yeah.
You witnessed.
Yeah. Felt terrible.
The karma there, and not to give Baltz credit.
Saw him Sunday, too. He was worried about it.
2 in a row.
Yeah. Saw him at Pour on Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. What are the guys' names that own it?
He was.
My apologies
Yeah,
to them.
Jeff and Zach, Brett was concerned.
I roasted that crowd
Sure.
to a crisp char.
Yeah.
And God's karma, as soon as I walk to take my seat, I go to sit back, and I go back, and I go back, and ass over tea kettle, I'm on the ground.
Yeah. It was, yeah. I mean, it was a palpable moment of everybody going, oh my God. A couple of things. One, chair was already broke.
It was faulty.
Yeah, chair was already broke, and I went there for the record. It was a leaned back metal chair that had already been bent and demolished, and was not the next person to get a little too confident in that chair was going to go full ass over appetite. As soon as I saw people, I don't know what it says about my reflex, but as soon as I saw people really excited that you had fallen, and not in the "is he okay," but in the "that's
great.
what you get" moment. I froze for a second before giving a little instruction.
Sure, I heard it.
I didn't think that you were gonna. It didn't make sense to try to kind of like pull you up like at the end of a play in the NFL. You know, like your feet weren't on the ground; your feet were in the air.
Souls to sun.
Yeah, so pulling you up that way wasn't going to work. So I said, well, he's got to roll out of it. You got to roll to the side and get up like a life alert.
I mean, that was people thought I hit my head. I must have just missed something.
It really looked bad, and I think it's because everybody only caught the absolute last second of like, did you just pratfall? I mean, onto the concrete.
It was a slow tip over. Like it kept just reclining back and back.
Yeah, like in Inception. That's the only way to wake people up.
Good fucking thing I am, and God bless my buddy Scotty Schmees, who just sold this fucking place. And that deal closes October, I think.
You could have been the new owner.
I mean, I don't want to mess that up, but Schmees, you got to get rid of that chair.
Yeah, that chair was. Yeah, that was there. That was there for a liability, to say the least.
Great day on Saturday, and I was gonna say minus that glitch, but maybe not, because I did walk away completely unscratched. Besides ego,
yeah, pride comes before the fall.
I thought that my roast was pretty good, although I don't know if it's a roast when it's true, like our friend Brad Maggio potentially needing a bed here at Illinois Recovery Center. But
it's great to see him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love Brad.
One of the best parts of the night, though, was seeing our buddy Chad.
Oh yeah, I love him so much.
And God bless him and his wife. And you said to him, "Fucking call me, man."
Yeah,
and
I love him, and he did.
And but he goes, "Well, I don't have your fucking number."
Oh yeah.
Well, take it.
Yeah.
And he starts typing your number, and his shirt.
It was in there.
Fuck, I got it.
Will of God. Just put him in there 5 minutes before.
Been there the whole time.
I love him so much.
So he called.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, we're buds, man. Like that's the thing. I love him.
And Ashley says on the way home, she's like, I don't know who's worse at getting out of a place, and I know you don't mind it because you can talk to anybody, but Chaz can't sneak out of anywhere without people coming.
I'm so excited to see everybody.
Sure.
I'll tell you a story to make you feel better. I was thinking about it. When I was in the 8th grade, shout out Miss Klaus, who's the hero of this story. So it's no
why
secret.
She chose Harry.
No secret to the people that know me that I've had some body image problems over the years and was a bit of a bigger kid. I've done
Grandma gave you a lot of cookies.
I've done a lot of work to be nice to that kid. It's work in progress. And, the pinnacle of that probably would have been 7th and 8th grade. Junior high was not particularly pleasant in that realm. And Miss Klaus, great teacher, she's my 8th grade teacher. She had, up at the front of the room, had like a swivel chair, like any other teacher would have, right? Like, but a high back swivel chair. And we had like an indoor recess or something. And
St. Teresa's.
everybody's hanging out, doing their thing. I'm sure I was mostly on my own.
What about Madison?
For whatever reason, I sat in that chair and I broke the seat off of it.
I'm not laughing.
I broke the seat off of that chair, and I'm immediately like, and it's just like your fall at Big Daddy's. It stops the room. My memory of it is, right, there's not going to be another person on the planet that remembers this story. It doesn't matter to anybody else. It shouldn't matter to anybody else.
You'll never forget it.
I'll never forget it. I could draw it like it's a courtroom artist. I could draw every face. I probably remember what shoes people were wearing. But I break the teacher's chair. It was probably already not in great shape. I'm gonna say
Miss Klaus is the most petite of petite women too.
And so
in your defense,
there's this moment where I'm also, this will tell you a lot about who I am as a kid, right? I also then wait by the scene of the crime with this chair in 2 pieces. And it's still standing, right? Because the stand of it is just the stand and the post. I broke the seat off of this thing, but the rest of it is still there. So it's just in 2 pieces. And I'm standing by this now broken chair. I even remember bringing it to by her desk to just when she entered the room for me to say,
look what I did.
This is me. And
I'm the biggest loser.
I have never been more capable of telepathy. I read her mind when she looked at me and just knew what just happened is punishment enough. I broke my teacher's chair doing something I shouldn't do in the front of the classroom during an indoor recess at the 2 minutes that we were left unsupervised. And I got in zero trouble. It had nothing to do with some kind of I was everybody's favorite. It was her looking me head to toe and being aware of I bet the last however many moments of your life
has been torture.
Were difficult enough that we are square and we will get this handled. And so amongst stories of people showing mercy to me, Miss Klaus is way towards the top.
She's an angel.
Shout out.
Good day on Saturday prior to that golf tournament for the Tom Pond of 11 Foundation. You're a board member. You had your lovely niece in town who I met her, huge fan. Want to be her friend. She's a 40-year-old in a 13-year-old body. Her sense of humor is top notch. Can hang with anybody, and getting to know her, a 110-degree golf tournament may not interest her very much.
No,
I think
it wouldn't have been her thing.
She would have passed. As much as she would have loved to see Screech's foursome come by the tent.
She would hang, but it would not be for her. It would not be something we'd subject her to on a trip into town with us. She's good with that kind of the double dutch of conversation. She kind of sits there quietly and then jumps in and
Sniper.
and then jumps right out, and it's okay.
She sniped me on something just standing by your refrigerator by the island there. And she goes, I was zoning out there for a second, but did you just say?
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. But the golf tournament was a real big success. The family that, God bless them, have had it 8 years now. This is the Juice Cup. Althoff family, a lot of Althoff people at the tournament. You went to Althoff, knew all of these guys. I mean, half of them I coach. You ended up seeing them at Big Daddy's.
Yeah,
molded them into the young men that they are. I'd like to say that
Sure.
me and Maggio, probably talking about us to their therapist. Let's hope.
I hope so.
But we raised a lot of money. It was a really great day to kind of get this foundation started. Couldn't do it without Chrissy Shields and the Behrman family, honoring her son AJ. 10 years ago, lost his life to an overdose. Her and Artie, Jake, her other two sons, have been on the podcast with her, and it really wasn't too hot. It was a great day. Ashley really, she lived her vows, as she does every day, really.
Oh, yeah.
Worked the whole tournament. And when I say whole tournament, it was two. First flight went off at 8 balls in the air. Second flight went off at 1 balls in the air. There was a moment where she had to retreat to the clubhouse. And I said, "You want me to come with you?" And she said, "No, I need to be alone."
Yeah.
I said, "Got it."
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Dissociated a little bit in there, I'm sure, but she does best.
Yeah, it's skill. We all have it on the spectrum somewhere.
By the time we got home after leaving your house, it was we were done.
Yeah.
It was a long
It's a long day.
But worth it. Got some rest yesterday. We got up to church and then came back and got some rest. But it was a great day, man. It was really a celebration. Told a lot of Tom's jokes, which he has about 5 of them.
Not to be repeated here.
Yeah, right. But if you are a part of the founders launch and commit to a certain level, you get a framed, his top 5 jokes framed. So we'll hang that at the office at Light Source.
Oh my God. I'm not a founder donor.
You're just on the board.
Yeah.
And a hockey sweater. One of his sweaters we'll hang up, and we're gonna get some people help. There's statistics coming out that we've been doing a lot of research. We know there's an issue. We know there's a gap in care for people that are wanting desperately a life of recovery after they leave inpatient, and either they exhausted all their resources for those 30 days, they get cut off by insurance after the 30 days if they're lucky, and now what? And that's what the foundation does with 2 social workers managing you, being case managers, if you will, and helping you adult. And there's been some Harvard studies done on how brutally difficult that first year can be, but how rewarding it can be if you make it. So it really is a good cause, and I think we're going to do a lot of good work with the generosity of people, including your leadership as a board member. Thank you. Begged to be on it. Didn't you?
I remember.
I asked you to sign the paper.
Yeah.
Just sign right here, will you?
Well, the year thing is it's an interesting conversation. I mean, like, I was a case manager, as like a significant percentage of us social workers, when we're getting going and getting moving, we spend time in case management. And one of the reasons why you don't always meet a lot of people that are case managers for a career is not just like, oh, it's low pain or this or that. I mean, that's in there, right? I mean, those can be entry level jobs, and they're undervalued. But also, it's just so hard, like, it's really, really tough to navigate, like, consistently navigate resources and be meeting a client's needs that are unique to that client. There isn't 2 people that need the same thing.
It's not a cookie cutter.
Yeah, so it's really, really tough. I supervised a social worker who's in Pennsylvania now named Meg. I would love to think that Meg listens, but I don't know that Meg listens. But
Is that Light Source shirt at Eddie Bauer?
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah,
I just noticed that.
The other one's Puma.
Oh, my God.
I like those
Yeah,
Pumas.
you do. Boy, that outlet store loves
Puma
when you
guy.
come.
So I got a couple Puma ones
done.
too.
Sorry to interrupt you, but well
Yeah.
done.
And so Meg, I supervised Meg, and like, it's just so, I feel bad introducing Meg as somebody that I supervised, because she was light years ahead of me as a social worker. I just had credentials that she didn't have yet.
Supervision, you people in social work, you clinicians, even God bless Pastor Charity saw me on this one, because Ashley would have a meeting now at her new job. This is 2 years ago, and always Charity said, "Let's have a meeting." And Ashley would always call it supervision. And she said, "Why do you call it that?"
Well, this was supervision.
Got it. Okay.
I was her clinical supervisor. So it was a supervision she needed to be fully licensed.
Sure. Okay. So there is that word.
So it's like, Yeah, so it was something that she needed that I have the credentials. She needed the supervision. She's an LCSW now, a long time. But she was probably the gold standard of a case worker that I knew, a case manager that I knew as a social worker. She had a job, a big OB program had put money aside to develop a social work program so that she could support moms,
Nice.
like Medicaid moms and stuff. And then she has gone on in other spaces to basically teach that program.
Amen.
And but Meg was one of those like social workers that like she would show up and she would talk to me about, I was working with this mom this week and she's been having a lot of car problems. She has an opportunity to get a new job. I found this program that's out of, southeastern Missouri where they had a little bit of money, where they have mechanics that'll donate their time. And so if they're working with single moms, so I was able to get this mom to get her car fixed. And it's just like, that is the absolute, like, that's the white whale of case management.
Wow.
When you're doing things like getting those things covered, because there's just no programs for it. And the reason there's no programs for it makes sense, right? Is you can't have like a social worker on staff at Meineke, right? That is just kind of working advocacy. Not that that's a bad idea, but by there you go, well, you would also want that social worker on staff everywhere, right?
Is that what's his face's shop?
Oh, Dirk owned
Dirk.
Meineke.
That's
Yeah,
right.
he had some
Yeah.
Meinekes, yeah. But like, Meg was so
Fucking
good at that.
bloodbaths playing his hockey team in senior men's.
And
Never allowed back to the Scott Trade or whatever they call it now, Enterprise.
Oh.
Me and Stevens. You guys told us this one
What a loss.
game, please, we might be get asked back. No shenanigans.
Yeah.
They slew-footed him.
Yeah, we should have told you it was opposite day or something.
Got to go to war for my boy.
You don't. So I look at like what you want to be doing with 11 Foundation and think like it is it's a unique discussion to have, because you're doing two things, right? You kind of put it under the umbrella of kind of this 11 months of what could be considered, if it were my language, case management. But then you also want to think about how you're trying to fit together this idea of like, how do you meet an individual where they're at when they re-enter their day-to-day life, and that's going to be unique to the individual.
Individualistic is the word Ashley uses, and to your point,
and that's hard to pull off. Yeah, it's just hard to pull off. I don't, and not that you can't, not that I think, you're gonna have a hard time. It just really is. Case management was. I mean, I loved being a case manager. It was a cool job, and it was also incredibly humbling because people let you into their world and their home, right? I'm doing home visits. I'm bringing you your medication. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. I'm getting you to appointments. We need a private place to talk, and like other members of your family have to be like, everybody get upstairs. We got, it's a very unique kind of community-based engagement, but it's also one of the only jobs I ever had where I had kind of Sunday scaries, because I had the feeling of like, boy, tomorrow's going to roll around and I don't know if I'm going to help anybody. I don't know if I'm going to have two people waiting for a place to stay, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them a place to stay. I'm going to, I need to figure out a way to get $1,200 worth of medication paid for this guy that's coming out of the hospital. And that was the kind of worry that was there in an established 1,000-employee nonprofit that I was working at, so it really, like, the world of building like individualized resources is really complicated, and something that any social worker has an awareness of, just how hard it is to actually give language to what can actually be helpful for somebody. I maybe I've said this on here before, but I used to always talk about how I would, if somebody said they didn't have any food, right? It's like, I can get you food.
Yeah.
Right? You could always get food. But I was so out over my skis as a new social worker that I didn't really ever ask anybody what they like to eat.
Yeah, right.
Nobody
wants your canned spam.
Yeah, so
expired.
you'd go to a food pantry, and the one thing you could leave, it's probably even harder to do this now than it was when I was a case manager. You could leave a food pantry with two arms full of groceries for somebody. But I would be so excited to actually think I could meet a need that I would just go. I'd be like, load up. I know we'll go to 2 different places. And then I wouldn't say like, well, do you like to cook?
You'd skip first, second, and third base.
Yeah, I knew the social work enough to be like, hey, does your stove work? Does your oven work? Do you have a microwave? You know, like I knew that stuff. But in terms of what really woke me up is I used to teach out of the chapter where Abraham Maslow writes about the hierarchy of needs, where he actually discusses it, not just like the triangle, the pyramid of the hierarchy of needs that a lot of people have seen. And he doesn't directly separate needs from values, right? The discussion is more like to have a need met is to also have a version of that need met that is relatable to you, that it is reflective of who you are and what you care about, right? So in a desperate time, we think about how, well, food, shelter, and water as these lower tier needs of the pyramid. You know, as far as we're concerned, it's you know, bread, water, and a tin roof so the rain doesn't get in. And Maslow, of course, who was this humanistic person talking about peak experiences and all these things, of course he didn't separate need from value. The idea is like, do you have sustenance that is reflective of what you need and who you are? Right? Like if you have a roof over your head, but you are terrified that somebody's going to burst through the door any minute now, you don't have your shelter need met.
Sure.
You know, like that's not, you can't cross that off and move up to esteem, love, and belonging and peak experiences. You know, you can't skip that. And so when you think about putting together a foundation like you are, you're also thinking about like, how do you have the resources and supports in place so that somebody can actually feel like these 11 months they're formed out for who they are and or who they're learning to be in a way that is reflective of some real authenticity. You know, otherwise the cookie cutter stuff comes in, and where that comes in, and this is really nobody's fault because like these are big systems we're talking about, where the cookie cutter comes in as a bit of a problem is you as a provider or even a social worker as a clinician runs the risk of becoming a little bit resentful, right? When you say, I have 10 resources for you, and you look at those 10 resources and go, I don't want any of them.
Yeah.
Right? But the reality is you need to have the conversation of, I have 10 resources for you regarding some of the needs that you have, and I want to see if you really resonate with any of them and think that this would be a good next step. Right? You know, it's like when somebody comes in and they're homeless and I say, well, I've got a bed for you. And you say, okay, where is it? And I say, it's this shelter in Granite City. And you go, I can't go to Granite City. Terrible things have happened to me in Granite City. If I'm not careful, it's like, well, I got a bed for you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I'm not even asking you, like,
beggars can't be choosers.
Do you have any places where you would feel safe if I could help you get there? And so it's a cool thing you're doing, and it's uphill.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and this is to, you know, the executive director, the social worker we have, but Ashley, to tell her story a little bit, you know, when not everybody has this, as you know, but she has a real gift and passion and call to be with people and meet them where they're at. And when she was at Places for People, it's called something else now, a nonprofit in St. Louis that served unhoused and addicted or mental health issued clients. Naturally, she's getting promoted quickly through the system because she's really gifted. And with each promotion came this distance between her and human being that she was serving, and that she would get unhappier because she literally wants to be under the bridge, helping the clients and working the systems with and she says they're the most fascinating. Her clients, she's learned so much about humanity and people and uniqueness, and so, you know, there's an element of that for her to be able to support as we build up a caseload. You know, we've had one client over the last 60 days, and so it's right now all hands on deck and individualistic approach as the caseload grows and grows. You know, we'll assess and leave that up to her. She's the clinical director, but there is an element to that case management work that you were talking about, Megan, and the stuff you guys did that it's like people that go into two words that should never go together pediatric oncology, and you hear these stories of these angel nurses and even techs and people that work in that environment, you are a special person if you have a calling to serve, because and same thing with the social workers like you and Ashley and Megan that you mentioned, and even Zoe that's doing it now, like choosing this work. Like it's really
it's tough. I mean, and you're right. I mean, like Ashley has I've said on here before, I've referenced that Michael Mead, who's an author I really like, that Mead talks about how one of the things that we do in this country is not only do we have people that are unhoused, but we allow them to feel like this isn't home. You know, that like we also, it's kind of the outcast kind of idea. And when you think about somebody like Ashley is a good example, it would be really, really tough to think that somebody could feel like they don't have a home if they're around Ashley.
sure.
Right? Like, you know, where it's like, because you're not going to feel like you're outside of society, right? Like Mead's point is that one of the things that we do is we have a lot of different people that we treat like they're outside of society, right? That's where stigmas come in. That's where, you know, addiction stuff, mental health stuff is the same way, right? People that are struggling with mental health get an unbelievable amount of unsolicited advice about what to do next, as if somebody doesn't know, like,
What you ought to do.
go for a walk would be helpful. And
Eat what did she say? My mother, eat less, move more.
yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. One of the cool things is when you can dissociate and your heart rate's 158. But there's an aspect of like building something like you guys are trying to do, and like Ashley and you know, Zoe are trying to put together, where it's really, really tough that even if you can't meet an immediate need, you're trying to help somebody feel like they're not outside, that they're not outcast. And so that affective experience matters too, right? So it might be a bit of a cop out because somebody would probably much rather have a bed than like somebody be nice to them. But you know, my argument is always going to be that if you can't have both, something's wrong, right? Like the you know,
that's, and you mean, yeah, that's, break it down.
Yeah,
You can't. You mean you're really ungrateful if you want a bed and somebody to be kind to
yeah,
you.
like you should be able to have both of those things.
Fuck, you're asking for a lot, bro.
You know, and it's I think that
Can I tell you a story real quick about one of Ashley's clients? And this is a little bit that I know, but this client lived potentially in a lot or underpass, if you will, right north of like downtown, but like north downtown by the river kind of, and the arch grounds. And when they have the fair one year, this client was really pissed because somebody parked in her house.
sure.
Because they were parking there to watch the fireworks. And Ashley was like, that would piss me off too.
No kidding.
That would piss.
Yeah.
That's where, like, and this person was hopping mad. And, you know, and Ashley I don't blame this person for being pissed. You know?
Yeah. I can understand that. I think too, like it's even if somebody is mad in a situation like that, the ability, if the bar is only as high as like, well, tell them it's okay to be mad. Like, I mean, they're, yeah, like, fine. Like, things are
That's
hard.
where I live, bro.
Like, life is hard. Like,
you and your cooler and your lawn chair to watch the fire. I fucking live here.
Part of why I've always worked with a lot of like existential therapy is one of the first rules of existential therapists is the language of like being alive is hard. Like, you know, it's hard, and we have to acknowledge that for one another, right? That like no matter what, everybody is like trying to figure things out on a path that they didn't really get a lot of warning about. Mm-hmm. You know, the kind of proverbial nobody asked to be born kind of idea that like you're just thrust into it and here we go. And so a lot of times there's the amount of effort that goes into explaining things that we think people shouldn't be upset about.
Right. Yeah.
is a pretty large. If we could bottle that energy, we'd get something done.
Did I tell you? Did we talk about the bootstraps? No, it doesn't.
I've heard the phrase.
Right. And I'm sure you love it. So Matt 2 Sundays ago talked about it in his message, and his message was that even Moses had help, lots of it.
Yeah.
The midwives he's alive because the midwives defied Pharaoh.
Yeah.
And so my message at Underground was first that this Moses is somebody we should pay attention to because the Jews, the Muzzies, and the Christies all love him.
Sure.
And if you transcend all this holy war shit, and they all like you,
Yeah.
like you did something right. And back
I'm sure
then.
that's how all those religions like to be referred to as well.
I kind of made up Christies, and I crowdsourced. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, and
Kevin Bunton wasn't a big fan,
No.
but anyway,
Yeah.
back to Moses.
So so no one liked it. Like, you workshopped it, and everybody went, "Oh,
you
don't do that one."
pull the ripcord.
Yeah.
Cut that from the bit.
Yeah.
So working on that myself. But the point was Matt brought up this point that, and how repulsive. My words, not Matt's. The phrase "self-made" is
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's
but-
the other thing too. The concept of from what I know, the idea, the phraseology of pull yourself up by the bootstraps is in reference to
bullshit.
It's impossible.
It's satirical. So that's what he
it's
brought
satire,
up.
Yeah.
So he said that he explained, like, if you try to do it, it's impossible to do.
You're grabbing your shoes and trying to pull yourself up.
And it somehow has flipped to this rally cry.
Yeah.
To like dismiss poor people that they're not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and going to work.
Yeah.
When the phrase is bullshit. Like, it's satire.
There's a lot of language that goes around. This is kind of like early MSW school. You're going to read some kind
Not the
of
Brown
story.
School, go SLU.
I'm a SLU guy. I do love the Brown School. I got a lot of people I know from there.
I like to divide that, to make that war.
I love SLU. Yeah, I mean, those are my people.
That's
for
a
sure.
St. Louis war, though. It's like the Smet and Chaminade. It's like Brown School or SLU.
Well, there's no weaker fight than social workers, right? We're gonna be like, you guys are all doing a lot of really important work. No, you guys are doing a lot of important work.
Can you imagine?
Then we have to self-hate, where it's like, I don't really love. So I love some of the things you guys are doing. I don't. Our program's a
This
little
is like
lost.
Saturday Night Live
It's
bit.
a little lost in the weeds, but you guys are amazing. Oh, and then the other schools, yes, those are so good. Yeah, it's social workers we're not known for that divisive process in the same way, but yeah, I mean there is something to like there's this case that you'll get. I won't even say it's a case. Like somewhere you're going to run across the discussion of different kind of tropes about poverty that will include historically you had a lot of like if you see somebody that doesn't have a lot of resources and they still smoke cigarettes, right? It's like, if you didn't smoke, you just, it's like, okay, well, I'll tell you right now. So let's say on the high end that a person that works, has a little bit, that is struggling with resources, that doesn't have a lot, and I smoke cigarettes. On the high end, I'm saving myself $5,000 a year. Let's say I got that $5,000. What bracket am I pulling myself out of?
What if the Virginia Slims?
With that, like it's always been a trope. It's always been the bootstrap dialogue. It's the same thing when you hear somebody say somebody's got, these people don't have any money, but they got a nicer TV than me. Okay, well, TVs cost nothing. Oh, they got a phone. Everybody's got a phone. How are you going to get a job if you don't have a phone?
It is. I can hear it. It's
just kind of one of those things where one of the
McDonald's is hiring.
One of the first episodes that we did on here, I talked about how like the highest level of spiritual maturity is anything can happen, right? That Joseph Goldstein, the Buddhist teacher, loves to talk about that as soon as you are living a life where you say, guess what can't happen to me, right?
Oh boy.
Like you're dancing, and a lot of stuff with poverty, addiction, mental health, those are things that people really want the comfort of knowing, as long as I'm doing this, this, and this, it's not going to happen to me. And I can't fault people for wanting that comfort, right? You can't be driving home in your car that you like, to your house that you like, to the lifestyle that you enjoy, and be thinking at all times that it could go away at any moment. That's not a very high quality of life anyways, right? A lot of people do that too, right? But
it's called an anxiety disorder.
Yeah, but there's so much to be said for, the control that we want to have by assuming that there are just these nice, simple, self-made, if I do these things, I get ahead in life stuff. A lot of people really want that they want that comfort, but like that also kind of creates a bit of a false narrative for people that aren't eligible for that comfort, right? Like, so, there's there's the one guy, maybe he's still out there, one of the guys that, hopefully I'm not repeating myself, was one of the cleaners on that show Hoarders. So I don't really love that show Hoarders, but a lot of people do, and I'd watched some of it, and there was a guy who ran one of the cleaning crews. I think his name's Matt. And Matt is in recovery.
Okay.
And only hires people who are also in recovery, have been incarcerated, parole, probation, stuff like that. His basic argument is that people that have been through addiction and people that have been through things like incarceration, right, man, they know it all. They've been through it all. They don't. So you can't, you put a bunch of people that have been through addiction, you walk them into a house that's been hoarded. They're not, it's not going to be gross, or they're not going to judge. They're just going to be like, got another cat.
Right. Found it.
Like they're just
this one's pregnant.
Yeah, they're just going to do the work, and I know for a while there, his website was like 4or5decisions.com or something like that. And the reason for that website, if I remember correctly, was there was an episode, he did a cleanup. And in this house, there was an unhoused person that was also living in the backyard that had like a little sectioned off area of the backyard, and he was living back there. And he freaked out and told the camera crew and everybody initially, stay out of there. And then a couple of minutes later was like, fine, you can go in. This Matt guy said, what was that all about? Mm-hmm. And the guy basically told him that, well, he's got a bucket back there that he goes to the bathroom in. And he didn't want them to just go back there while that was there. He was embarrassed by that, and he wanted to go and get that out of there. And then he told him to go in there and kind of told a little bit of his story. And either, I believe that guy said to Matt, people got to remember that we're all 4 or 5 decisions away from shitting in a bucket.
Yeah. Amen, man.
And it is like, that is its own kind of spiritual humility, right? It's like nobody having a terrible time is going to just say that this was what they chose, what they wanted to do, where they were headed, and that they remember the decision they made that got it all going.
You had sent some ideas. Can we punt those to next week?
Yeah.
Because I like where we're going. I like this. This where we're at. Holly, we have big shoes to fill because she did text me that last week's Needed Here that has been her favorite to date.
Yeah.
I paraphrased that, but she was a big fan. So hopefully we're not letting her down today. I do need you to help me with these cords down here. I heard that you are quite the cord organizer. So.
Holly's the best.
We're on hoarding. I've always been a little fascinated. My grandmother hoarded. I'm starting to in my basement a little bit, if you ask Ashley. What is it? You mentioned that the show you don't like. Are you comfortable saying what it is?
Hoarders.
Yeah. No, I know that. But what you don't like about it?
Well, I just kind of like it, probably mostly well-intended, but there was an aspect of it that for a relatively sensationalized reason, right? It was like you come in there and it really is video of a lot of times somebody suffering just mightily.
Big time.
And not always like a framed in a compassion first way. I would be surprised if like Matt, the guy who only hires people in recovery and who does this for a living, or the therapists on there or whoever, I would be surprised if they don't kind of feel that most of the work that they did, of course, is on the cutting room floor, right? Like while they're trying to ask questions, be warm, be compassionate, and
that
do something,
hour.
it's an hour show with commercials in it, right? So it's 42 minutes or whatever of an episode. So it usually kind of like gave the optics of like it or not, Chris, we're coming in and getting your stuff. And then there's always going to be kind of spliced together some footage, unfortunately, of a person really struggling, like kind of going back out to some of the piles in the yard and sifting through them or pulling things back in or something like that. It's so painful.
I figured that's where
it's just so painful.
It wasn't just because it wasn't entertaining to you, that it was something deeper, because there is that scene alone of the person that's struggling with throwing something away and having a real breakdown is somebody really at their worst, and it is fucking sad.
Yeah. There's a very harsh, and I think there are a lot of people who struggle to even watch stuff like that because it is such a snapshot into suffering. You know, like I think at the end of the day, most of us see other human beings suffer, and
this isn't
we
somebody's
really don't
most
like it.
Intimate, they're in their home, which, people say, and there's rally cries out there, what people do in their home, it's their, and that it's freedom, it's, America, and then we go into their home, and yes, the person does absolutely need help if it gets to this point where some of these shows have indicated that it's gotten to, but talk about like somebody's most vulnerable personal space.
Well, it is something. I mean, when Intervention was on when way back when I was working only with addiction, right? And I knew a lot of people that just couldn't watch it. People that it was just not going to work, and other people who did, right? Other people that were like, oh, I need to watch it. I relate to that guy on there who comes across like a bit of a villain, but we all behaved that way. Like I saw that with people. There was actually a show before Hoarders, I think, called Obsessed, that was an OCD show, but
seen a couple of those.
My assumption, I have no idea. Like I'm some insider all of a sudden. I have no idea what I'm talking about. My assumption is, the Obsessed show was a 12-week, CBT and prolonged exposure kind of treatment process with somebody where they were kind of doing updates. The show would be spliced into month-to-month updates of a 12-week program. So it takes you a minimum of 12 weeks to have an episode.
Okay.
Right? Whereas like Hoarders, it would be a 48-hour period or 72-hour period where they're going to go in there with the whole crew, the dumpsters, the cleanup, the therapist.
And it seems like they gave you a time, like you were up against the time to get this house clean.
They only had. So, I mean, I would imagine some of it is just like the dollars and cents of like, well, you got one show that is treating an anxiety issue, OCD for 12 weeks. Then you have another show that is also treating something like this for, in 3 days. So I'm sure that was some of it. And I struggle with the fact that like, I just don't want, I don't think a lot of people are comfortable like watching somebody suffer mightily, but then like sometimes if it's framed out to make it look like the person's also difficult, like, and so like that makes it easier on all of us as viewers of suffering, right? Like we all kind of like, our discomfort, it relieves a little bit when somebody's entitled or somebody is difficult or somebody is confrontational. And so you kind of have those moments where it's like at first you are watching somebody really, really struggle, and then you get a segment where they are, it's intervention and they're getting high, or they just lied, or they just kind of like con something, or in Hoarders they were going through the piles of trash and taking things back inside. Where it's like, something is always done to titrate how the viewer is getting overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't get overwhelmed. Here's where Betsy makes a bad turn after the break. She's a jerk.
Right, they tease you.
Yeah, and it's what it does is it kind of like, if we're not careful, it trains us up as a viewer to think that we can just dismiss this suffering, rather than recognizing that that is also part of the suffering, right? Like a person who is struggling with mental health might frustratingly ignore your calls when they're depressed, right? Like, and if you can frame that out as like, well, I tried to help, but he doesn't want any help, right? Like it makes it easier on us, the person that's like trying to hold space and witness the suffering. When in reality, it's all suffering. You, the person calling your friend, hoping to get their voice on the phone and make sure they're okay. You're suffering because you're worried about your friend, and your friend who's not answering the phone is also suffering. And being able to hold that out and hold that space on all sides is really hard to do. There's a little bit of a little bit of comfort that comes from being able to dismiss somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind. And
they chose that.
yeah. And in the name, if we did a whole thing where we're talking about like boundaries, right? If we go back into codependency and boundaries and stuff, sure, there's going to be times where it's like, okay, as we've talked about in like the helping professions in general, right? You don't want to be working harder than the person whose life you're trying to help, right? Like that's kind of
been there.
That's the line, right? That's what we talk about. But that is a good rule that we've all learned the hard way, right? You were all going to end up.
You can picture
taking something more serious than the person who's struggling. Sometimes we're probably going to be the person that is taking something less serious than the person than people are telling us they're worried about.
Yeah,
right? Like I'm assuredly like not as concerned with something going on in my life than like Holly would be concerned on my behalf.
Ditto.
Like, and so of course that's in that moment there, that's a very holistic view of suffering, right?
Sure.
I'm clearly suffering with something that I'm not giving enough seriousness to. And the person who loves me the most is having to hold a little bit more space for it than I will, and having to figure out where's her boundary and where's her limit for how much she'll deal with that.
As skinny as she is, though, couldn't hold too much, mate.
Well, we're working on strength training.
There you go. You at the at the gym with Dana?
BWC.
Yeah. Oh, that place.
It's amazing.
They take a new member?
Be there in the morning.
Yeah. You get there early, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Me and Keith. We're the only ones in there.
Just throwing iron.
We're the only ones in there, yeah.
And is Holly going?
No.
Okay.
No.
You are.
Yeah. Back in my bag.
Hoarding, let's talk about, in that shows the most extreme cases.
Sure.
Where does the physiology of hoarding? I have always been fascinated by this a little bit because I do it myself.
The
the
pathology of it?
Yeah, is that what I'm saying? Yeah. What
physiology would be more physical.
Whatever the fuck. Yeah, excuse me. That's why I wanted to
it's
call
got
this.
a physiological component, I'm sure. It's affective. It involves your nervous system and your body.
Why I wanted to call this the brilliant, the dumb fuck. You wouldn't let me call it that.
Enjoy that.
What is is it an OCD?
Historically, it's been kind of put in there. I'm a little out of depth here because a lot of the world of OCD, and as a result, probably some of the hoarding stuff, has actually advanced quite a bit in the last few years, especially with like certain medications that are effective with OCD and stuff that I don't really know a ton about, but I know it's out there.
TMS.
So that means that they're learning a little bit more about the physiological, those components of it. It has been lumped in with kind of obsessive compulsive stuff before, just because of the nature of, there's something that is leading to this kind of compulsive hoarding, right? Like you're clearly like compulsively keeping things, right? So that would mean that there's some kind of obsessive thing going on. Ooh.
Yikes.
But I also,
for the kids.
I also think that, like you said, maybe not going into the most extreme, but maybe going into the more kind of human of why do we cling, right? Like, why do we have more than we need? Why do we have, we kind of, I've written on Substack before about kind of like an emotional junk drawer, right? Like, where do we put everything, and a lot of that is like this is where I can like pivot a little bit into stuff I have more knowledge of rather than like the actual pathology of hoarding and OCD, which I know, but I'm not an expert on, is like there's a lot of kind of like shadow aspects of it, right? Where it's like these are things we keep, but we kind of like disown, right? Like we don't want to look at it. It gets to a point where we don't want to see it. We don't want to be around it, but then tasked with getting rid of it, we feel like we can't. This is why like a lot of people have there's kind of an old stereotypical version of keeping too many things, which is like people that grew up in the Depression.
Yeah.
Sure. Like that's like the one that everybody thinks of, that like you come from a world where everything went away. And so people that would have been from families that were alive during that time would have been raised by parents that, grew up in the Depression. That would have been like a pretty big thing, because it's just like, you never know when you're going to need it. But then which is
certainly like plausible. Like
Absolutely.
Everybody gets that. I mean, when anybody in our family died, it all ended up in my old man's basement.
Mm-hmm.
He died. Guess who's got it all?
Yeah.
I got the totes.
Yeah.
And there's like the thought of it's, and I don't know. And there's also, and I think this is an American culture thing. I don't know, but the fucking storage industry is a billion dollar industry, and they keep building them, these storage units, because we've accumulated so much stuff.
We like our stuff. We definitely like our stuff. Yeah.
I moved a second uncle, a friend, Jim. I moved him a couple times over the last year. He has a couple bags, a TV, and a table, and then rents a recliner that kind of turns into a bed. And there's a part of me, man, that just wants, that like envies the fuck out of like.
Sure.
I could, and I have an SUV, but it was one trip. He moved in one trip.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a little bit of both, right? Like there's also, when you talk about, I mean, anything from going into treatment to traveling, part of what we like is the opportunity to not really have to think about all that, right? Mm-hmm. The opportunity to just like have what we throw in a bag and go just have those things and not worry about cleaning anything, picking a lot of things up, doing a lot of dishes, doing a lot of the dailies. Like we all like a break from that. So like I said, I mean, in one breath, it's the far end of like a wonderful vacation that you could be privileged enough to be on. The other end of it might be like, you and I have talked about it before. If somebody goes into inpatient treatment, the lion's share of the work being done is just simply not being around all the same crap that you're being around every day. I mean, that's your industry right there, right? I'm a therapist. Do I believe in therapy and talking about things and processing and working on it? Of course I do.
The day you die.
I also believe like, give yourself a bit of a break. And so,
which we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean. So there's a piece of it where even when it comes to stuff, right? Like we build relationships. There's kind of like legendary stories that, Carl Jung, I like Carl, and
he makes an appearance on this show weekly.
Jung had,
think we can get him on?
What they call, maybe some of his people. I want to get my guy. I want to get Felix in Mexico City on here.
We talked about him last week. I feel.
Oh man, I want to get Felix on here. Felix Chancellor, man.
Oh, I stuck my foot in my
He's
mouth
so cool.
when you brought up Felix. I think it was about the.
I don't know.
There was some scandal in the Buddhist.
Oh yeah. But that wasn't Felix. Don't worry.
Tripped over my what on that.
We figured
one.
it out.
Yeah,
we figured it out. But Jung had what is called like synesthesia, where he kind of thought that like items had like a soul. Like they and I don't know if you'd say soul, but just like the idea of like adding, kind of animating items, right?
Fucking
like
My Buddy doll scared me to death
right,
my whole life.
Yeah, that's a form of it probably, like the personification of something, right? Like that this don't kick that table over. That's a good table. He ain't done nothing to you. He's a good guy. And so Jung had a collection of like beer steins.
Okay.
That was one of the things that he liked. And he had relationships with all of them, right? That was like this synesthesia, was that he would kind of think out loud, but he would kind of use these steins as kind of where he's projecting a personality onto them, as like, what do we think we should do here? And
people, was he tripping on
the
acid?
Legend has it that Emma Jung, his wife, in some arguments, that she'd get those steins and flick them.
Oh boy!
And just be like, what's
how's that feel, Carl?
Yeah, what do you think of this? Well, who's this? Who's your boy?
That's
And-
diabolical. That's something Holly would do.
It's perfect, right? Because Emma was
fuck.
also an analyst, and so and had a lot of reasons to be mad at Carl.
Take
But
that, Carl.
yeah, and
Like it's
so
a voodoo doll.
I think, that's that. I have always thought that's such an interesting story because it's like that is kind of like what we do, right? Like we don't want to do wrong by these things. We don't want to take something that provided us joy at any point and discard it. If we get a little too in the weeds about it, I think that's like just because we're projecting, we're personifying an item. I think we're just at our core, we're all scared that's what's going to happen to us, right?
You need an Emma to come up and
Yeah, like we're all scared that at some point we are the item that can be discarded. And we start projecting that onto so many different things, we start thinking that, because you can give that compassion to anything, right? I can go home tonight and open a protein bar and then,
Quest.
I
You
do like a
those
Quest
Quest.
bar.
Good macros.
And like, I could have a moment where I think, well, gosh, this wrapper has been holding my food all day. The other day, like kind of half, like I had a pair of running socks that started to have a hole in them. And so Holly's like, we're throwing these socks away. There's a little hole in them. And I say, okay. And she's like, I know how you are. Do you want to thank them? And I caught myself saying, well, they never asked for anything. They just did their job and they never asked for anything. And I appreciate that about them. You could see where that could be an easily out of control thing. But I think a lot of it is like we have a really hard time. And I think this is human. I'm not going to get into like a cultural thing of it. I think it's just human. We all are striving and striving and striving to be enough, to do everything right, to not upset people, to have enough things, to make enough money, to be successful enough, to be liked enough, to be attractive enough, to be all these different things that it's suddenly very relatable to think that why you don't want to just throw an item out that's been nothing but good to you.
Well, what'd you say earlier? It's not easy to live.
Yeah, I think that, and so it's like then you think of a lot of people, even if you don't have a lot of things that are of some big monetary value, you might always have a core memory of having nothing. But even if you've always had things, but you have a core memory where you think you've always been nothing, right? Like, like that's not an item thing. You might worry that for your, like you might not want that to happen to anything.
As you're talking, like, and this is not a scripted show really ever. We throw some bullet points, but to kind of close the loop on the recovery stuff in the 11 months, and you'd mentioned earlier, there's an element of that relates to me that prevented me to go to treatment.
Sure.
And prevented me to stop drinking because, damn it, that alcohol, that whiskey, that was that was my friend, that was my warm blanket, and I had to throw it away. I had to discard it. I had to, otherwise I was going to die. But that's a real barrier. I mean, that's the barrier too.
Sure.
And then going into your point, putting everything in a bag, not including that, going in and resetting for 30 days, and then leaving. Now what? Do I go right back to that?
Yeah.
Hopefully not. That reset was important, but damn, was I mean. I was hoarding alcohol, and everybody I know that got to as bad as I did. And I've heard this from friends of mine that were heroin addicts. They never went to bed without the next morning's. And yeah, because you're dependent, but it's a form of like when you're talking about, throwing or like why it's hard. I mean, it's really hard for us, especially if we're now chemically dependent on something.
Yeah.
So to be able to walk away from it, throw it away, discard it, throw some shit in a duffel bag, and go to treatment for 30 days, and then start a new life without that. That's it. There's a psychological aspect to it that I think people that may struggle with throwing things away, if they hear this, they might understand a little bit more how hard it is for someone to finally say, okay, I'll go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw this away.
1,000%. I think there is it's almost where you get into kind of like ritual and ceremony, right? Like what is the process of kind of having burning in effigy of, the, I think it's probably, I don't know enough about this psychology, but it's probably why a lot of people even go on one big bender before they go to treatment, which is a big risk. But it is, of course, the kind of aspect of like, well, I want to make sure that this is kind of like appropriately respected, like.
I did it similar. It wasn't a huge bender. But I went home and broke up with at the time I was drinking Rich and Rare, because there's nothing rich and there's nothing rare about Rich and Rare whiskey. Yeah. And I was pouring it on the rocks, and I would sip it almost like it was like a funeral for the whiskey. My roommate Varner was there, but and I told him this is it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how he felt about it. They were reflecting, because he was like, "Oh shit, my roommate and landlord."
Big changes are happening. Yeah.
But I sat there and I had passed out a million times more drunk all the nights before. This night I did, but I romanticized this shit out of. Yeah. To your point.
Yeah.
These last few doubles.
Yeah, if you've ever had to give something up, right? Like even like an identity or something like that, right? Like you have all of these totems of that identity. Yeah. Like I mean, even if you quit a job,
sure.
I remember my dad had a bunch of because my dad eventually retired from AT&T.
Now,
my dad he would give me these old collared shirts, because the company changed hands so many times that they couldn't wear the shirts. They'd get the same blue shirt that he had to wear, but he's like, well, we're not Illinois Bell anymore. Right. We're not Southwestern Bell anymore. We're not SBC anymore. We're not, so it's like I, at one point,
new merch, baby.
when I had no money, right? Like, and it's like, wait, I'll take 5 SBC collared shirts. I'll wear the brakes off of those, and I did.
And they don't got to be Eddie Bauer.
No, it's different times. But it's like there's a point where you get into this where giving up these things, even if it's changing a job, if it's changing some of the people that you hang out with, if it's changing even a hobby. We talked last week about how hard it is to go back to things and start new things. Right, like there's these totems. You'll be surrounded by these totems, and turning them into a thing that represents the past but is not necessarily an identifier is a really, really tough thing. And if you yourself have ever felt discarded or abandoned or been made to feel less than in any way, for at least a little bit of time, you're not going to want to do that to someone or something else.
No.
Like I just think there is something human about it. I know we've become very materialistic, and I know, like, I mean, clearly I'm a Buddhist, so like I have strong opinions on attachment, right? Like,
yeah, you do.
But
ask Morgan, who was sitting in the hot seat a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but I don't think of anything with like I don't think there's anything weird about it, right? Like the when the Buddha says that he teaches suffering and relief from suffering, it is mostly like, we think about the relief. We think that, oh, well, that's what Buddhism teaches, right? Don't be attached to things. Don't cling to things. Understand? But it's like, no, he teaches suffering first. That this is hard. You're going to cling to things. You're going to attach to things. Life is going to be uncomfortable in ways that you would never be able to solely predict. You are going to struggle to get rid of a tote in your basement that is full of things you're never going to look at again, because you don't like how it feels to discard things if you've been discarded, right? He taught suffering, and then the relief from suffering, which is some kind of reduction in that clinging, right, is not just this absolute butcher knife of a cleaving, of a pick it up and put it in the dumpster and don't look at it, right? It's the teaching, the relief from suffering is, what are the means, right? What are the skillful means that allow you to go from clinging in a way that hurts to less clinging in a way that creates relief, right? And that's going to be different for all of us, right? You know, like, I mean, essentially what the Buddha is going to teach, right, is like the skillful means would be meditation, right? Meditation is a means to this inner freedom that he's talking about. But in terms of even being materialistic, even being worried about like these things that we have or these things that we cling to, when we think about in Buddhism that it's relief, it's suffering and relief from suffering, we forget how much teaching went into understanding suffering. Understanding your kind of unique brand of what makes things hard for you, right? The thing that I would tell you you can't throw away in my office would seem worthless to you, right? Like if you said, well, Chaz, look at all these books, you're not going to read these books again.
Buddy of mine gave me a little baby Jesus thing, and Meadow got it.
Oh man,
yep,
she's been saved.
She won.
Yeah. He's been saved.
Baby Jesus was in 1,000 pieces.
Oh, my God.
Some of it's out in the yard now.
Meadow could probably go in the basement and solve some of these problems.
I was just getting ready to tell you that I'm going to, you can send me a bill because I'm going to clean my fucking basement this weekend after today's episode.
It's hard, man. I mean, it's hard, you know, even though I'll tell you right now, it might feel like a bit of a journey to go from how do you get somebody 1 month sober through their first year to how do you deal with a full basement? But I'm going to tell you, if you start pulling on some of those invisible threads, they're the same.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that it is the same kind of like, you know, somebody who's probably got 30 days sober and is going to spend 11 months working with some people in the foundation and trying to build their life back up. Those people have to rebuild who they are, understand again what it's like to have a healthy form of desire, right? Because what we're talking about is like, how do you reestablish a healthy form of attachment, right? How do you feel? This is spiritual attachment, not attachment styles, different things, right? How do you establish healthy forms of attachment? How do you, as we say, kind of clean, like how do you hold with an open palm, not a closed palm, right? Like, that kind of discussion, that's the same discussion is what connects us as humans. It's the same discussion for somebody that is just figuring out what it's like to have a healthy attachment as it is to somebody that has clung tightly to countless things that have filled their house, their basement, their life with things that feel like they're weighing them down. It's the same thread, right? Like it's a different course, but the same thread. And that's why when we think about like how to work with one another, how to be kind to one another, the first thing we have to be able to do is we're not separate. We're not separate. That anything can happen, right? You could be a guy with a basement full of stuff that you got to sort through. That only puts you a couple of decisions away from missing that basement because you ain't got it no more. 4 or 5 decisions. Yeah, that's all of us, and that's how we have to take care of one another in some way. Is know that like we're all trying to figure out healthy ways to attach to things, healthy ways to allow things to go their own way so that we can have our own authentic version of ourselves. It's pulling the same thread, man. So hopefully somebody needed to hear that.